Welcome to the Snap UK podcast, American football with a British twang. It's time to review week 1. Let's go for overreactions, wanky stats. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Snap UK podcast, the UK's home of informed NFL opinion and thoughtful insight, alongside petty arguments and poorly timed jokes. Tonight in the doghouse, it's myself, Jimmy G, Griff, and the return of 4th and Inches. Gilo is here, but a combination of man flu and shock at a 49ers victory mean he can't speak. No time for delay tonight, gentlemen. Let's get into proper football, starting with the defending champs, the New England Patriots. The Pats won 33-3 over the Steelers on Sunday's late game. So who is stopping the Patriots in the AFC?
Not the Steelers, clearly.
Apparently not.
No one.
No one. No. The Chiefs, maybe.
Maybe.
The Chiefs is the only maybe.
In the AFC Championship game. It seems likely. Would it be 9 straight or 10 straight?
It would be a lot straight. More than what it should be.
Was it this time 2 years ago that I sat here sobbing because we'd been whooped 40 points to 7 by the Chiefs on the opening day?
Yeah.
This is the best opening day Patriots game I have seen in years. We're normally terrible the first few weeks of the season. And, this was impressive.
It's about 7 months since you were crying because, oh no, we're not going to win the playoffs. It's the same every time.
Oh, the Rams look really good.
Yeah.
Best offense, really good defense. Oh, they just won.
Yeah.
It's all fair.
It's all bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah, sod off.
I'll blow some trumpet and say that I haven't seen a New England team look quite this threatening on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
And, just for good laugh, we've added Antonio Brown. Anyone want to mention that, or should we just move on?
I think we should probably cover the fact that you've signed the guy that in our power rankings last year we had as the number one wide receiver.
Because our rankings do count for everything.
Signed him for free, effectively. After you've offered a first-round pick in the summer, but the Steelers didn't want to give him away to a rival.
Imagine that.
When Brett Favre left the Packers, he got traded to the Jets. The Packers put a clause in the contract with the Jets that if the Jets traded him to the Lions, the Vikings, or the Bears, that the Jets would have to give the Packers free first-round picks. Why don't the Steelers do something similar? I know Brown wasn't traded or anything, but why don't they just do something similar? If you're going to cut him, or if you're going to do something that will allow him to go to the Patriots, because we really don't want that right now, you're going to have to give us a bit of extra compensation. But nope, Brown has left Pittsburgh. He's gone to Oakland, where I'm not sure he had any intention to ever play. Now he's managed to get himself out of an awkward situation in Oakland, and wouldn't you know it, he's turned up at the best team in football when they don't really need him.
No, this is the thing. I'm not sure how much better he makes this team.
He makes them better.
Yeah, he makes them marginally better.
It's like, but his leaving and Le'Veon Bell's leaving has made the Steelers worse. Like 2 weeks ago, people were still saying, "Oh, the Steelers will be just as good this year because Brown has left. Oh, they'll be a much better team." Yeah, they looked really great on Sunday, didn't they? Scoring their 3 points.
They were pretty poor. They couldn't move the ball at all.
Yeah. So, it's bizarre. Sign good players with good coaches, then, your team will probably be quite good.
It doesn't help when you've got your WR1 is about 5'2".
Juju.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't seem to have any chemistry going on at all, but they were playing the Patriots, who happened to have a particularly good game on defence. It was a bad game. Roethlisberger was extremely poor.
Yep.
And Connor had probably his worst game as a Steeler.
Yep, 10 carries, 21 yards.
So there wasn't... All right, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I still don't think they're a team that are this bad, and I don't think the talent difference is this wide a gap between the Steelers and the Patriots. And I think Antonio Brown is worth 1 or fewer points per week to the Patriots on this team because the team has been so good without him anyway. He is potentially just a massive disruption who gets cut after 5 weeks.
No.
He probably won't, but if there is any player that's going to happen to, it's going to be Brown, because he needs to walk into the Patriots facility and he needs to just do what every other successful player does there and toe the line, just do their job. Hopefully Belichick doesn't treat him like any other player. I can't see Belichick giving him any special treatment. He's just there, said, right, you do what you're told and you do what everyone else does and you toe the line, we'll win a Super Bowl for you. If you start acting up, you're going to be cut. There's going to be no... And after that, I don't think Brown will have another place to go to. Because if he can't work, if Belichick can't make it work, then what hope has he got of working on any other team?
I don't care how much of an arse he is. He's better than Cody Latimer. He's always welcome in the Giants. I say what he likes about Shermer.
I'm not sure that he'll ever be unemployed for very long, but it's costing him a lot of money. He was set to earn $54 million in 3 years at the Raiders. He's got, $9 million for this season, and then a $20 million next year if he...
Yeah, $9 million signing bonus, $15 million over the first year, and then the Patriots have an option to keep him for $20 million next year.
I don't necessarily think they will keep him. If he has a good season...
Let's see him suit up first.
But let's say he has a good season. Let's say he catches half a dozen touchdowns, because there's a lot of rivalry for touchdowns there. Surely they would think, right, let's say they get to the AFC Championship game, win, lose or draw, whatever happens there. You don't want to predict it all the way through, but he has a good season, the team does well. They probably think, we're not going to get 2 good seasons out of him before he kicks off. Let's see who will send us a 2nd or 3rd round pick for Antonio Brown and move on again. They don't ever keep anyone around too long.
Apart from Brady.
They kept
too long? 42 years old, and what did he put up this weekend?
He was brilliant this weekend.
He was flawless. It did help that the O-line, which has taken all that battering last week with...
O-line was brilliant again.
Yeah, they were amazing. Despite all the changes they had to make at centre. He get sacked once, didn't he? They barely touched him. I think he got sacked once.
He got sacked once.
He had so much time. He was picking Philip Dorsett out. Philip Dorsett had time to get down the field.
He made Philip Dorsett look amazing.
Like Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So John, imagine what he's going to do to Antonio
It's
Brown.
almost like you've had enough already.
Well, no, like, it's...
I have a problem with the defeatist part of it. Oh, he's not going to do very good.
Yeah, I'm sick of the defeatist. I'm sick of the character questions, because it wasn't really... His character wasn't really brought up until, like, game 12 last year. I think it was just like, well, Antonio Brown is the best. And then suddenly this narrative of character questioning has really come in. And I wonder where it's come from. I don't know.
It's come from Antonio Brown.
But Antonio Brown hasn't helped it by... But did anyone see Pat McAfee this weekend?
No.
He was... Because he was describing Brown's journey into the Raiders, starting with when he went to visit Derek Carr at his house. And he's like, this is great. This is, because I'm getting to know the quarterback, which is what couldn't do at Pittsburgh. And then in McAfee's description, he played with Derek Carr and was like, oh no, this isn't very good. So he made the issue with the helmet, and they stood by him.
And the feet.
They had the issue with the feet. They stood by him, and he's just like, what have I got to do to get out of this? Because this is trash. And, he's done what he's done. But I don't see much... Melvin Gordon isn't playing. No one's going, oh, well, who's going to sign Melvin Gordon because he's got character issues? He stood out. Le'Veon Bell, he's, there's players with character issues for other thing, but for some reason, it's... People keep going on about Brown.
But I think there's a difference between holding out and threatening to beat the crap out of your general manager.
That is, yeah.
Like, he has to be held back.
He called him mayonnaise.
He had to be held back.
The man with no voice is shouting
Yeah,
at us across the room. He called him mayonnaise.
And he had to be held back by Vontae's Perfect.
Yeah, which, frankly, no one
Come
wants
on.
to see. You want to see Vontae's Perfect weighing in.
Come on, we've got to call his proper name, Renowned Bellend Vontae.
If only Richie Incognito had weighed in at the same time, it would have been amazing. It could have been a race war at the same time.
Luckily, Antonio Brown probably doesn't remember the time that Vontae's Perfect knocked him out.
Let's be fair, we're talking about character issues in a team with Vontae's Perfect and Richie Incognito.
Yeah.
How is he the problem?
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure, as every other Patriot comes in, they will toe the line, because they know if they toe the line, they get rings and they get paid.
which is all anybody wants.
Yeah. So, shall we... another team off to a resounding start were the Ravens, winning just...
Scraping the win.
59-10 over the Dolphins. And so we all knew the Finns were tanking. Did anyone expect them to be this poor?
No.
Not against the Ravens.
Not that poor.
If this had been the scoreline against the Patriots or against the Chiefs, I'd have said, fair enough. But against the Ravens, they made Lamar Jackson look like the best quarterback in the NFL. And he isn't, despite what you've just seen. He is clearly much improved as a passer.
Right now, by stats, he's the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he isn't.
He's perfect, apparently.
Yeah. He's absolutely brilliant.
He was amazing, and I really hope this is a sign of where they've got him to. Because if you notice over the off-season, we've heard nothing about Lamar Jackson.
I kept hearing that he's he's not progressing as a quarterback.
Yeah, but what I mean is he's not been a distraction. You haven't seen him turn up places. He's not been running his mouth like Baker, so on and so forth.
He's the Madden team of the week hero.
Excellent stuff. But this was impressive. But let's just point out that it was impressive against a backfield that could have included the five of us.
In fairness, the receivers they've got for him are just so quick, and it gives an average quarterback, which is what we've got to go on him so far. They made it so easy for him.
Yeah, but
then the defense as well made it even easier.
It's the perfect game plan on offense, isn't it? Everyone's expecting the Ravens to run pretty much 4 out of every 5 plays. So they're stacking the box, and they've got quick wide receivers who are just taking advantage of the fact that there might be one or even no safeties playing, and they can outrun whatever cornerback is going against them. So in this instance, Hollywood Brown, debut game, 4 receptions, 147 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Wow.
That's brilliant, but I don't think you can read anything into it because this Dolphins team was just dire.
It was trash, wasn't it?
It's like they conceded the first touchdown and they just gave up. I mean, apparently there's loads of them have requested trades now. I think the management have given up on them, and I think the players are starting to realise that it's pointless as well.
Who would want any of those players?
Mike Gesicki looked all right.
He looks all right. I mean, there's players on the roster still that are high draft picks. I mean, Fitzpatrick was a first-round draft pick a couple of years back. Devontae Parker's okay, but yeah, you're right. There's nothing there that makes you kind of jump up and down and go, yay, they're really good.
No. I mean, I thought Ryan Fitzpatrick actually played a pretty bog-standard Ryan Fitzpatrick game. Okay, he wasn't awful by any stretch of the imagination. And on a competent team, I think he'd have kept said competent team up with the rate. But there is nothing. Losing Kenny Stills is a catastrophe because he's the possession receiver. Devontae Parker got what?
No. Let's go back now.
Hang on.
Well, we're going back.
Back to
what you just said.
Yeah, Kenny Stills.
If Kenny Stills is the solution, you have a massive problem in the first place.
Yes.
It's a fair point. It's not great.
He's
The problem is they haven't got anyone.
I'm going to tell you how good Kenny Stills is. I've had 2 viruses attempted to be sent to me to my work email. Both of them have been at kennystills.com. The man has become a computer virus.
We will get to Kenny Stills later, but the point being, Ryan Fitzpatrick's numbers were in a semi-good team enough to keep up with most occasions in the NFL, as he usually does. He wasn't responsible for the majority of the problems they had, was he?
No, I mean, you can't put any of this on either of the quarterbacks. I mean, Josh Rosen came in late on.
His first pass was an interception.
Yeah, but
his first pass as a Dolphin.
Who's he passing to?
Then
then
just throw it out of play. His first, I mean, he was bad when he came on.
But who's he passing to him, and what's the offensive line in front of him?
I agree.
There is nothing there to work
with.
But
if ever there was one way to demonstrate that you're probably not going to be there next year when they draft a quarterback high, this was it. There's more chance of Fitzpatrick being held over to coach than you guys.
But when you just turn around and go, look, I'm trash, but I'm trash around other trash.
Yeah.
You know,
Rosen
Patrick wasn't that good. 14 for 29.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, who's he thrown to?
185 yards,
But he was putting up yards to nobody. He wasn't responsible for... When they took him out, they didn't get better, did they?
Well, no, but...
I was disappointed. I said they should have been playing Rosen anyway, because if you're going to have the guy for a year, you might as well see what you've got. It seems daft to not play him. However, if that's the route they want to go down... I feel for Brian Flores, another one of the Belichick coaching tree, who's clearly going to be in trouble. Because I think they did say to him, we're going to tear this down and start again, but I don't think they told him all this was going to happen.
I hope they did. Because
I'm not sure.
Like, that's going to be... If they didn't and they're expecting him to win... I mean, he's got no hope.
I don't think they're expecting him to win, but I don't think when he took the job, they said, we're going to get rid of your receivers, your left tackle, we're going to hamstring you completely. Yeah. I think they might have said, we're not going to bring anybody in.
Yeah.
But I don't think they said, we're going to get rid of everybody too.
Based on that performance, you could legitimately see Miami going 0-16 this year. Like,
Oh, God, yeah.
They were terrible.
They were awful.
Even the Browns, when they went 0-16, weren't that bad.
But if they went 0-16 and they draft Tua or whoever it is that they're going to pick with the number one pick, this team's still going to be terrible next year because they've got no other building blocks. The Cleveland Browns at least had got some holdover players that they could either trade for other players and picks or that would be good enough to plug in around better players. What have the Dolphins got?
Nice green uniforms.
Minka Fitzpatrick is the only player
Minka
on there
Fitzpatrick is
that I'd
the
take.
only one. That is it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. I thought it was disappointing for the fans. I think it's disappointing for the league. I don't think tanking is the right way to build a franchise.
But this isn't even tanking. This is below tanking.
Yeah, but see, they get the tanking concept from the NBA. John was telling me about the 76ers and how they approach it. But you only need 5 players to make a good NBA team or a better NBA team. You need 53 players, of which half probably need to be above average or good to make a competitive NFL team. And you can't build that with a dozen picks in the draft. There's too many. You cannot tank and rebuild a team in 2 years like the 76ers did. You'd have to tank for like 5 years. It's not as sustainable and make more. I don't know. Free agents won't want to go there. Not every team that's terrible calls the Browns and gets Beckham.
Hang on a sec. Let's not put the Browns in the success.
We'll get to them. But what I'm saying is they have suddenly got what you would consider a competitive team.
Yes.
That doesn't happen all the time. The Bills and the Bengals were terrible for years and years and years and still haven't really shown enough to say they've built a case. Just saying.
Well, let's move on because another NFL Sunday and another defeat for the Giants. They took a 7-0 lead. Unfortunately, it finished 35-17. It did finish there.
Before anything else, me and you are the Giants fans here, right?
You're owning up to that.
You are, yeah.
I'm even wearing a Giants top.
Oh, you're a Giant. Oh, no, I see. Right, yeah. See.
We're both wearing Giants. We're both wearing Giants merchandise, right? So, if you'd have told me we'd come out within 2 scores of the Cowboys, I'd have been okay with that. The Cowboys are a really, really good team.
The Cowboys...
They're actually better than I thought.
Yeah.
I agree. And Dak Prescott was much better than I thought he was going to be. He had a great game. What was it?
You didn't come within 2 scores.
Ish.
2 scores, 2 point version, 16. You finished 18 or 19 points behind.
Yeah, they were close.
Ish.
It was never this close. It was never as good as it looks on paper.
It wasn't close at all, but I thought...
But for the first 5 minutes...
That's the best game I've seen Prescott play. Like, he was
Yeah.
imperious.
But if Prescott,
wasn't
it?
if Prescott wants Russell Wilson money, let's see him against a team that can defend against a tight end. Because 64-year-old
Jason
Witten came on, put his Zimmer frame to the side, walked from the snap, walked 4 yards, caught the ball, scored a touchdown, as any tight end could do against the Giants.
I don't have his yards after the catch in front of me, but I'm willing to bet it was negative because he caught the ball and just got knocked backwards
His
every
total
time.
yards was only 15. So
Yeah.
But he did score.
yeah.
Which
I think
for the Cowboys was amazing. The fans went
tight ends
crazy.
scored for them,
I
didn't
mean,
they?
he's no
Yeah.
Jeff Swain.
No, he is
Yes.
no Jeff Swain, but it was nice to see him. I mean, he was clearly better at this than he was at being a pundit.
Yep.
But that's
And
That's an understatement. DeAndre Baker, cornerback, for the Giants. Anybody the Giants fans want to talk about how bad he was and how much Dak just picked on him again and again and again?
Your first game in the NFL, and you're covering Amari Cooper.
Yeah,
It's pretty harsh.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the NFL.
Absolutely. I was just looking into how some of the rookies did. He was particularly bad.
I remember who's the Jets cornerback, young Jets quarterback? Is it Adams? Jamal Adams?
He's a safety.
But he had a particularly poor game for his first game last year, and but they asked him. He went, well, "What do you expect?" It's my first game.
It's a fair comment.
And it is. This is Giants are not in a win now phase.
The point I was going to get to with that was I've never seen Dak actively pick on anyone before. I didn't know he was that sort of quarterback who can decide, right, I'm just going to pick on you and throw the ball. And he actually had the time in the pocket to do it. He had the presence of mind to do it. What did he get? 4 touchdowns and 400 yards?
Just imagine what he'd be like if he played against a pass rush.
Yeah.
Getting Travis Fredericks back is a massive plus
huge.
for Dallas.
Last time that he had 4 touchdowns and 400 yards in a game.
I don't think he has he?
Week 17 last year. The 2 times he's done it. He is now on a roll. 800 yards and 8 touchdowns in 2 games. He is getting better. He is going to get paid.
That's a bit of a
They are going to keep him. Yeah, it is, of course. But they are going to keep him. He is going to get paid big money. And actually, if Jerry wants to make this sort of palatable, he ought to do it now. Because if Dak they've got the Redskins coming up.
Then the Dolphins.
Yeah, so he needs to pay him now. Because if Dak starts the season with 12 touchdowns, no picks, and 1,200 yards, how much money is he going to be asking for? It'll be crazy.
Because I know in fantasy, I've stocked the Cowboys' defense because I remember they've got 2 absolute slam dunk games.
Yeah.
The Redskins aren't as bad as.
They then follow that
Well,
up
we'll
with the
get to
Saints.
them.
But let's see what he does against the Saints. Then let's say whether we
Zeke was quiet for
Zeke was
obviously
fine, 50 odd yards, but
just having him on the field means the Giants had to consider defending him.
Dallas 2 days before the game kicked off. So
I imagine you got Stitch.
Yeah, probably.
And they had Sue Pollard anyway, so they'd have been fine.
Sue Pollard. That is such a niche reference for most people listening. But go and look her up.
Another Cowboy that's due to get paid, or might get paid, might not. Amari Cooper had a good game. 6 receptions.
You think they're going to pay him?
I don't know. This is my point.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup, second-year wide receiver, 7 receptions, 158 yards.
I'm not sure that Amari's getting paid. I think he's gone because they don't need him if they've got Michael Gallup. I think it's a shame because I think Amari Cooper has made this team much better. But
I think
you can't just rely on having one receiver, though.
No, you have to have several, like Josh Gordon, Antonio Brown.
But this is misleading stat. Much like we've said, but the Ravens aren't that good because suck. The Giants aren't great.
No, the Giants aren't great.
No, we never expected them to be either.
No,
the Cowboys they've got Cobb, but I still think the best of all of them is Amari Cooper. So, if Jerry wants to get a ring before he leaves this mortal coil, then he needs to pay Amari Cooper.
Oh, I think he should. I'm just not sure he will. I thought Randall Cobb, by the way, had an excellent game.
He did.
I completely forgot he was there.
Yeah, that's because Aaron Rodgers also completely forgot he was in Green Bay last year.
Yeah, it wasn't good. But, this was an impressive debut for the Cowboys. And
he's not one of the wide receivers that they also tried at running back as well, is he, Cobb?
No, I don't think he is.
No, I don't think so. But, the Cowboys are going to have fierce competition from the Eagles, who we will get to shortly. But in terms of player for player, I don't think there's a better out-and-out team in the NFL that's got strength at every position like the Cowboys have. They may be equals, but I don't think there's any team better.
The Eagles, I think, possibly.
In the NFL or the NFC?
NFC.
In the NFC.
Okay, good.
I think the Eagles...
I still think the Rams would...
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have their own problems. But, okay, it's just a point I thought I'd get across. I'm seriously impressed by the Cowboys' start, despite it only being against the Giants.
Despite losing, Eli wasn't terrible.
Nope.
No, he got worse as the game went on, actually. He started we thought it was on a bit of a hot streak to start with. But the problem is when they get behind, he cannot make the throws to keep up.
When they get behind, they make throws, and they have a stud running back.
Yeah, he only had 11 carries.
Yep,
seems remarkably low.
It does. How many catches did he have? I didn't actually see.
He had 6.
Yeah,
no,
see,
I looked at the wrong person. He had 4.
So what? 15 touches. 15 touches for your stud player is not enough.
Yeah,
it needs to be 20 minimum.
Barkley should be getting 20 touches or 20 runs and catches on top of that. Really,
I understand not wanting to, break your star player, but yeah,
but use him as well.
Yeah, use him.
Daniel Jones did play in the game.
He did.
He did appear. I don't recall being blown away by what he did in the game. So
we think he played.
Three completions.
His number was on the pitch. We can't tell from the face.
Four attempts, 3 completions for 17 yards.
Yeah, it's not great.
First round quality.
He's going to be fine eventually, but they need a bit like Dak at the Cowboys. Dak was average until they started putting pieces around him. They've always had Zeke, as Daniel Jones will have Saquon, but the best receiver that Dak started with was Des Bryant, who was on a massive downturn.
Well, he never connected with Des Bryant.
No.
I will not have you disrespect the good name of Cole Beasley on this podcast.
Look, I like Cole Beasley, but he's not a difference maker of a player, is he?
He's a difference maker in music.
Not necessarily in a good way, though.
His rap album changed my life. So the Vikings really put the hammer down against the Falcons on Sunday, ultimately winning 28-12. But really, it was never close. Mike Zimmer got the victory of his wet dreams as a cousin continually handed off to Dalvin Cook and attempted just 10 passes. And the Falcons just didn't really turn up until the end.
80% success rate, though, for Cousins.
Yeah. So
that's pretty accurate.
How good is Dalvin Cook?
He's a difference maker, isn't he?
He's going to be a top 3 running back if he stays fit this year. He's
That's
now
the
a
biggest
year
question.
on from the ACL tear. Last year was difficult because he was trying to get back up to speed, and I think there was some tendency to not overuse him because of not wanting to put more wear and tear on that. But I mean, this was clearly balanced in favour of the run, far too heavily, in fact. But once they were ahead, they didn't need to throw the ball. And if you only have to get Kirk Cousins to manage a game, then he will do that for you with some competency. A bit like Alex Smith would do that with you for some competency. It's when he's asked to perform miracles, he's not able to do that. So this was probably the right way to go in this game.
Just imagine being called the new Alex Smith.
I'd love to be called the new Alex Smith. He's just sitting around with his leg up at the moment.
There's been about 5 guys in Washington since then who would love to be the new Alex Smith.
Yeah, I suspect so. The Falcons really were the story here, despite Dalvin Cook being excellent and the Vikings as a whole being fantastic as a unit. The Falcons, as I've written, did not turn up. It was just a no-show from a team that I really expected more from. The 12 points that they got were both in the
Garbage time.
Garbage time, both in the last quarter of the game. It was poor.
It was terrible.
The cornerback locked down Julio Jones and just kept him out of the game.
I'm not sure so much if it's the Falcons' offense, which, it didn't click, it didn't work. That Vikings defense was back to what it was 2 years ago, in 2017, when it was amazing. Last year, it went off the boil.
Yep.
2 years ago, it was amazing. And now it looks amazing again. And they've coupled that with some significant improvements on the offensive line. Still not brilliant, but some of the holes that Dalvin Cook had to run through weren't there last year.
No, they were not, no.
And it's making him look better as well. 21 carries, 111 yards. They also had Alexander Mattison, who was a rookie running back, came in, 9 carries for 49 yards. Now they can balance the workload between 2 decent running backs, and that offensive line can carry on developing because it's going to take a bit of time. Then this is going to be an old-fashioned football team when everyone else is kind of putting all the plaudits on the offense. This is more kind of, we're going to smack you in the mouth and we're going to win that way.
It did help when 3 minutes into the game, the Viking special team blocked the first Atlanta punt and gave Cousins and Dalvin Cook the ball on the Atlanta 21 and said, go ahead and score so that we're 7-0 up straight away.
That's just it, isn't it? Good defense wins you better, and this is partly special teams as well. It wins you better field position. It means your offense doesn't have to do as much. I think Kirk Cousins is better than Alex Smith, realistically. Yeah. But like you say, if he's only been asked to throw 10 times, that's not a lot of room to make a mistake.
No, and they didn't really need to do anything. The second Falcons possession, 3 plays, interception. followed by Vikings touchdown. So, 14
the
points
next
from
one
two
wasn't that a
mistakes.
fumble as well?
Yeah, there was a fumble in there
Quite
early.
early.
So,
But the Atlanta rushing game wasn't good either. Like they only had
I
73
have big hopes
yards.
for Freeman this year. But
Yeah, I had massive hopes, but 8 carries, 19 yards. But they asked Matt Ryan to throw 46 times. I said, this is a good defense. They've got good, defensive backs. You can't throw that many times and expect
the
not
biggest
to be picked
mistake
off.
the Falcons have made, letting Tevin Coleman go.
Yeah, possibly.
Because Ito Smith is not Tevin Coleman or Devonta Freeman, and Devonta Freeman, despite my best hopes, clearly isn't back to being himself yet.
No.
And
then you have to. This comes down to wages and salary caps, right? They can't pay 2 running backs.
yes, I understand.
Like they paid Devonta Freeman a couple of years back.
But 2 years ago, this was one of the best, if not the best, 1-2 backfield in the NFL.
Yeah.
And now it's not in the top.
2-3 years ago, this was one of
15?
the best defenses in the
Yeah.
NFL.
Yeah.
And then it went downhill, and 49ers are going to reap the benefits of that.
This feels a bit like one of those week 1 reactions where really we shouldn't be unduly concerned.
You're right.
But I did want to see more out of Atlanta, a team that is in one of the hardest divisions in football. If they'd have lost by a score or on a field goal or something like that, I wouldn't be at all concerned.
Yeah,
but to
they
be
were
completely
annihilated.
outplayed.
They completely, the Vikings managed this game brilliantly. They got an early score and then just ran the clock up and then ran the clock down.
You'd think that, what's his name, the coach of the Falcons, Dan Quinn, he not on borrowed time yet, but they have been bad since
I
they...
think he is on borrowed time. So
Yeah.
he's taken over.
You reckon?
Yeah, he's taken over the defensive play calling duties, and
If they reach the midpoint of the season and they are below 500...
they only got 1 sack against Kirk Cousins. They've improved the defensive line. They've drafted a lot of players along that defensive line over the last couple of years. Tack McKinley's come in. Vic Beasley has come in. They've got Grady Jarrett. They've just given a big contract to. But they're still not kind of getting that penetration.
It's fair. If Cousins isn't going to throw the ball, you ain't going to sack him.
But then if you can't stop the run
But if
either.
you can't stop the run, I know, yeah. But yeah, it's just really horrible. It was
insipid, is what it was.
It was, but it's more insipid than the last year's offense, which got a guy fired. So, I know it's not. You don't want to make a rush to rush.
31 yards for Julio Jones. That must be the lowest he's had in
A long time, because last year,
Heck of a
even when he
long
wasn't scoring, he was getting like 80 or 90 minimum a week.
But it's still 6 receptions for 31 yards. The yards per catch is terrible. The total yards are terrible. Yes, he got a touchdown, which makes it look a bit better. But that's not what we expect from Julio Jones. That's not what we expect from the Falcons' offensive game plan.
No, Calvin Ridley wasn't much better as well.
But Calvin Ridley's not there to get massive amounts of yards, is he? That's not his job.
No, but yeah.
Last year, Kirk Cousins fumbled the ball 9 times and lost 7 of them. He fumbled twice in this game alone, and he wasn't really being asked to do anything. I think he has a bit of an issue with that. I mean, I'm just never impressed by Kirk Cousins, ever. I know everybody else feels he's better than Alex Smith. I wouldn't choose him over Alex Smith.
I would at the moment.
I would.
I might at the moment. I'll grant you that.
He's unremarkable. He's not.
Yes. Oh, that is a great word. That's a great description. He is unremarkable. I just do not get it. I don't see why he's paid the way he's paid because of scarcity at the position, not because he was the best person. He was just the best person available, not the best person. And so I'm not sure that we should be. Clearly, Minnesota don't fancy putting everything in his hands, is what I'm getting at. They need the run to be any good. And on days when they come up against teams that can stop the run, I'm not sure the Vikings are going to be all that.
The fact-checking Gary has just reminded us that Julio scored 28 yards against the Panthers last year.
That's a beautiful stat from the
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for the
from the
sidelines.
silent mind in the corner there. He's contributing despite his near-death experience.
Stato.
Down in the corner.
Yeah, I think in the dressing gown.
He might as well be in his dressing gown at the moment.
Actually, now he's in a 49ers
49ers blanket.
So yeah, definitely a dressing gown rather than that. But yeah, I've got Freeman in my fantasy team.
How'd that go?
I've got Freeman in a couple of my fantasy teams. And
there's a rude comment from the back of the room there.
I'm a little worried.
I still think he's going to come good at some point, but I really thought he'd be good. I thought he'd hit the ground running, so to speak, and he didn't.
When Matt Ryan scores more rushing yards than him.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it's not ideal.
So the Eagles, let's move on. They survived a spirited fight by the much maligned Skins to secure a close-fought victory, 32-27. Did they underperform, or are the Redskins better than we thought?
It just seemed like the Redskins got to half-time and thought, that'll do.
I'm going to say they underperformed because they...
The Eagles or the Redskins?
Eagles.
Right.
Because first half, Keenum isn't a great quarterback, but if you give him time, he can do what he did in the first half of the game and what he did for the Vikings a couple of years ago. There was just no pressure, and he was just allowed to throw the ball to... and in the second half, that changed. And the Eagles got back into it. It was just... it was like they didn't realise the season had started until about...
I don't have the breakdown in front of me, but he went 30 for 44 for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns. How many of those yards were in the first half? Because it did seem like the Redskins dominated the first half and then just got outplayed in the second half.
I think it's got I think it's a badly managed game in the second half. Like they didn't even dress Adrian Peterson.
Yeah, and what were they missing in the second half? Someone to waste time with the run.
Yeah, they had 13 in total. They had 13 carries across the two running backs, Darius Geis and Chris Thompson, for 28 yards.
Darius Geis was one of the biggest disappointments of week 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. And now he's carrying another knee injury in the other knee, and so they might need Adrian Peterson after all, and you've probably hacked him off by making him a healthy scratch for the first time in career.
There is a running back that's holding out for a contract they could go after. But
Peterson was excellent last year.
Yeah, he was. But I mean, if they managed to piss him off and he doesn't want to play,
he needs the money.
Did you hear the Did you hear the Jay Gruden press conference when he was asked why he didn't suit up Adrian Peterson? He said, "We cannot run the ball out of the I formation 50 times a game, so we didn't need him."
Yeah, but maybe run it, 10 or 20 in the second half.
He's one of the best players on your team. Make sure he's available to you at least, because Darius Geis didn't play because he was knackered for a year. It was poorly managed. If Peterson had been there, you think they would have been able to eat a lot more clock.
Definitely. Speaking of old players,
eat a lot more clock. How immature of you, Paul Farrow.
I heard what I heard.
Speaking of old players, Vernon Davis' touchdown.
Wow,
that was pretty special.
How old is he? 30, 35?
He's 35.
I could
leaping
not
over a player, then running to the end zone. Yeah, he's still got it.
Any 49ers fan has a soft spot for him.
Yeah.
It was some shonky defence.
It was really pretty poor tackling. That summed up the Eagles' defence's first half, to be fair.
Also, who is Terry McLaurin?
He's quick, isn't he?
Is a wide receiver, and he was known as Scary Terry in the college game.
Scary Terry.
Because he's pretty quick, as was demonstrated on Sunday.
It's very rare that we come across a player that I know nothing about. But I've never heard of this guy. I've paid so little attention to the Redskins.
I mean, to be fair, if I'd have asked you to name 2 Redskins wide receivers before the start of that game, you'd have struggled.
I'd have said Paul Richardson and Jeremy Sprinkle.
Doxson, is he still there?
No, he's at the Vikings.
Crowder's gone, isn't
Crowder's not there.
Crowder.
No, that's what I mean. The only 2 I could name were Paul Richardson and Jeremy Sprinkle. I've never, ever heard of Scary Terry.
He came out of Ohio State. So,
decent program. School. Clearly, they needed someone to throw the ball to, and he was dead quick. Josh Norman played very well in this game, which is nice because he was not good last year.
He's kind of gone off the boil a little bit.
It doesn't help when the defense as a whole is not as good as the one you played in at the Panthers, and everything's on your shoulders.
Yeah, it wasn't.
He's got Landon Collins added to that defence this year, which will help.
Yes, they lost Jonathan Allen, one of the defensive tackles, to a knee injury. I think it might be an MCL sprain, so he might be out for a couple of weeks. That's a good defence otherwise, but now it could be in trouble.
What happened to Harklington Dix?
He's in Chicago.
Was he there?
He went to Chicago.
He moved on. Yeah, he's long gone. I think the Redskins might not be as bad as we thought they were going to be.
I still don't think they're very good.
No, I still think you're looking at a maximum of 6 wins. But
Yeah, I think
at
that's
least
fair.
they were competitive. They're not pulling Dolphins, for instance. They
No.
were competitive.
Yeah, and they've got. I mean, you think about they've got the call about Dwayne Haskins to come in
Yeah.
and develop. They've got a decent offensive line. Okay, Trent Williams is still holding out. I don't think
They've
he'll be
got a
back
bit of a
then.
rough run to start the season.
Yeah, and they've got the makings of a decent defense. They're certainly not Miami. I think 6 to 7 wins is good. Speaking of the Eagles, though, Deshaun Jackson is back.
Wow. Why would you let a man that quick go? That was incredible.
This is week 1 Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, and by
Let's-
the middle of the
I know,
season,
but
he'll be knackered. But
Let's
my
see where week
word.
10 Deshaun Jackson is.
Yeah, but the point is, as soon as they started covering it, Alshon Jeffrey was suddenly all alone and could receive the ball. He was outstanding in this game, and it took me back like 5 years for watching him when the last time he was there.
It was great. I loved watching those points rack up on my bench.
Imagine that.
But
Foolish.
With that, Carson Wentz looked a lot better than he has. Well, since he looks as good as what he was since,
The first year when he first started
yeah.
without the injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
We have to remember when they won the Super Bowl year.
He
if
was
he
in
wouldn't
the
have,
race,
if he
wasn't
wouldn't have, if he wouldn't have had the knee knack, he'd have
He was
probably,
M-
he was
well,
MVP.
MVP.
he would have been
Contender,
MVP. I mean, yeah, I really hope he is back to being that good, but it's the durability. It's the durability that's the issue. If he plays 12 games this season, the Eagles are a favourite for the Super Bowl. If he plays less than that, there isn't anyone behind him anymore. So, this is an issue for the Eagles moving forward.
I think he'd be fine.
I'm going to say he will win more games than Nick Foles, though.
Well, we're definitely going to get onto that. I suspect you might be right.
So it's some a nice refresh here, comforting to bring it back in. It's 4th and inches for some Cleveland frowns here, because a embarrassing 13-43 home defeat to the Tetons.
Did you say 33 or 43?
13 to 43.
13-43.
43, yeah.
Yeah.
Paul, take it away. What do you think?
So, Odell Beckham, great. Jarvis Landry, great. Baker Mayfield, one of the best rookie quarterbacks going, right? You've got Sheldon Richardson, bit of an arsehole, but great on defense, right?
Yeah.
Miles Garrett, brilliant.
Yeah.
You've got all these great players. Olivier Vernon, great player to bring into the defense. Probably need an O-line, don't you?
It would be useful.
That would help.
You traded your best O lineman in the off season.
Kevin Zeitler must be phenomenal. The difference, it just...
Well, he is a really, really good player at his position. Now the best player they've got is Greg Robinson, and he was ejected for 2-footing a man in the face while being pushed over.
That was pretty acrobatic. I was quite impressed with that. I mean, it takes an
It
athlete.
looked like
to
one of
do
your
that.
football tackles.
Yeah.
What a stupid move. How many yards did they concede in penalties? 183?
183. 18 penalties. 8 penalties was the most they've conceded since 1951.
But it did just seem to be at one point.
Poor.
Oh, Sheldon Richardson again. Okay, good.
It's often him. I couldn't help but feel to myself, this was one of the worst coached performances I have seen. They made 0 adjustments as the game went on.
Oh no! They. I mean, if maybe Kitchens went, hey, just throw it to the guy in white, because that's what all Baker did in the end.
Yeah.
They weren't terrible. Like, after the third quarter, the score was 21-13 to the Titans. Like, that's a game. It was only in the fourth quarter where Baker Mayfield just tried to force it, and it just went to shit, quite frankly. And like, they didn't, like you say, they didn't make any adjustments. They stopped running the ball. Like, Nick Chubb was having a decent game, and they were trying to score points quickly. Once he made one mistake, it got compounded by the second, which got compounded by the third, and suddenly you're 43-13 down. So I don't think it was terrible. The scoreline doesn't make it look good, but most of the game they were in it.
Do you not think it'd be good for the Browns, though, to come back down to earth a little bit?
Yeah, I actually think it'd be pretty decent. You're right.
I don't think it's the worst thing to have a humbling loss.
There's 2 things I like about this. Firstly, Believe Land is dead.
Right.
Didn't like it anyway.
Is that a thing?
They wanted Madden 20 Believe Land edition.
Oh, God.
Christ.
Well, I'm glad that's dead.
Yeah. And secondly, the Titans' defense, I didn't realise how good that is.
The secondary is
Yeah.
amazing. I did tell you this in the
Decent.
pre-season rundown. As I said, this is one of the top 3 secondaries in the league. And they were amazing. They're such a good... They've built this team in the right way. They've built the defence. They've stuck with the quarterback despite the problems. And we'll come to him. He did okay. 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks.
That's the best I've seen him play for a long time.
It's the best he's played since his rookie year, I believe. And it may well have been the fact that they traded for Tannehill and really put him under pressure. Imagine, all right, Ryan Tannehill, not great, but he's better than Matt Castle, who was the pressure on Mariota for the last 2 years.
Blaine Gabbert there 2 years
Blaine
ago
Gabbert was there as well. You know, like, they've actually done something to push him forward. Let's see if he can do it over a season. I'm not sure. I can't see Gary's face. I'm going to assume he's shaking his head.
He is, yeah.
He's got to be better than Gardner Minshew the second.
I don't know.
No, he was all right.
I don't know.
Stop being in love with his moustache, John.
The moustache was sexy. Let's
He
get
was
to
all
that.
right.
Derrick Henry as well, though. So talking about the team being built in the right way, Derrick Henry is now not just this massive run man. He's the catches. He had one reception for a 75-yard touchdown run. It was incredible. He's a proper 3-down back now. They've basically made Dion Lewis redundant in this team.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, let's not forget he also had 84 yards on the ground, an average of 4.4 yards per carry, and another touchdown. When you've got a weapon like that and you can lean on him, he's going to get you out of trouble. I thought Mariota was brilliant, quite frankly.
A massive 28 points on my bench.
There was a lot of good bench play this week. A.J. Brown, the debut of A.J. Brown. 3 receptions and 100 yards off those 4 targets. That's as good as a debut can be for a wide receiver, right?
I was going to mention this when we're going to later on. We're going to look at some of the rookies, but like this was a draft class where a lot of the wide receivers were very unheralded. Like there wasn't an Odell Beckham, there wasn't kind of a top wide receiver.
There was no Will Fuller the fifth.
Exactly. This is the second wide receiver now who we mentioned, Marquise Brown, now AJ Brown. There's others as well who had really good games, right? Really, got over 100 yards. I think that receiver is better than it looks. Actually, meant to mention Terry McLaurin as well.
Oh yeah, Scary Terry. Don't forget Scary Terry. Before we move on, though,
just one other thing with the Titans, and also because I genuinely feel this is one of the reasons I lost the fantasy against you.
Go on,
man.
Delaney Walker
it was amazing.
Delaney Walker coming back. He's just
ageless.
Yeah.
5 receptions, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. Man mountain. It was just incredible.
Another former 49ers tight end.
Yeah, he was excellent, and Mariota always plays better. Don't forget, it was game 1 last year when he broke himself.
Yeah.
And the Titans are a much poorer team without him. They are sneaky good. There's no Andrew Luck ahead of them. There's now no Nick Foles ahead of them. And
they have got another quarterback in that division who looked pretty good the other night. Last night.
We're definitely getting to that. But this team could be certainly in the playoff shout, which I didn't think they would be this year. Normally I pick them and say they're going to be up there. And this year I didn't think so much, but maybe it's all coming together and this might be the right way to build a franchise. Because actually it's fairly impressive. You wanted to get to mention about the Texans. We will get to them as well. But before we do that, I see on the little rundown, because it's not scripted, John skipped over that a little bit, but he also missed the conversation about one of the Monday night games.
He did. I thought he missed that as well.
Yeah, he did. Never mind. It's because I didn't explain it very well. It's my fault. I apologise. So, Oakland and Denver played on Monday night, okay? We'll get around to the other one in a bit, but...
I've got a question to ask you for Oakland-Denver.
Go on.
Is this a case of Oakland are getting better, or are Denver just dross?
Well, before I answer that, how many people thought Oakland were going to win?
One hand has gone up.
One hand over there.
One silent hand.
One silent hand, Gary. I think I'll give him that. Fair enough.
If you look at my piece of paper from last week, I did circle the Raiders, and then I changed my mind.
I didn't think they were going to win. I thought that there'd be too much pressure on the quarterback. How many quarterback hits and sacks were there last night by the Broncos?
None.
This team cannot win if they cannot play on defence. And if you cannot get to Derek Carr, who has Colton Miller as his left tackle...
Face it,
that is poor.
Trent Brown, the right tackle, best paid tackle in football now.
Played very well.
Colton Miller, the left tackle, played very well. If they're stopping Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, widely regarded as the best pass rushing duo in the league, that bodes well for Oakland.
So, to answer your question, Mr. 4th and Inches, I think this is Oakland getting better and the Broncos not taking any steps forward. They're a team that has to rely on the defence to put Flacco in good enough positions to win games. He isn't going to win games. I texted Jim this morning and said Flacco was awful, and he said, well, he wasn't awful. The numbers are okay. They're okay, but when the pocket starts to collapse and he hasn't got time, he moves slower than Eli Manning.
He can't move.
He goes nowhere, and teams will figure that out. This is going to prove to be another John Elway poor quarterback acquisition.
I wouldn't put it all on the quarterback. Yeah, you're right. He wasn't brilliant, but there were a lot of drops in that game as well. There were 10 points down at one point.
Yep.
And I can't remember the player dropped a ball that if he'd have caught it, it was an easy catch as well. It would have gone for a touchdown. There were other times where players they weren't open. It was Deshaun Hamilton. I've just seen his name there.
Deshaun Hamilton. Yeah.
I think it was almost pretty much in the end zone. And it was an easy catch, and he should have caught it. If his receivers aren't helping him out by catching easy catches, there's no chance they're going to catch the hard ones.
No, I mean, Flacco is going to deliver the ball down the field. He was still doing that last year at the Ravens. It's the intermediate touch passes that he cannot do. He just isn't accurate enough for that. So if his receivers are going to let him down on the odd distance ball, there is going to be big trouble. I had the Broncos being on the cusp of making the playoffs as a wild card, but they're going to have to play twice as well every week to do that, because I don't think this Oakland team are great.
No, but they played really well.
They did play. Derek Carr was excellent.
22 from 26.
Yeah, he was excellent. And maybe Antonio Brown should be looking, thinking, oh, perhaps he's not an awful quarterback after all.
Brown's with Brady now, though. So
yeah,
I mean, all right, but the point being, actually, I think this gave Oakland a shot in the arm to say, look, even players that have been on our team don't think we're any good, and that's unfair. We can go out and actually do something. They're a much better team than last year, and Josh Jacobs, fantastic. Marshawn who? He was brilliant.
Lynch.
Yeah, that's him.
He was all right.
Oh, come on. This was a really good
23 carries, 85 yards, 3.7 yards per carry.
This was for a debut for a team that isn't supposed to be that good, and doesn't have a great O-line, just has an average O-line. I was really impressed.
The fact stopping Miller and Chubb, that's actually a decent one.
They put that much work through a rookie running back.
Yeah, but they're always going to.
But when your other option is Jalen Richard,
I like Jalen Richard. He's a good pass catching back.
No,
he's a
pass
catching
forgot
back.
DeAndre Washington.
He is.
Yeah, most people have.
I was going to say, is it DeAndre Washington, the other one?
How did Royce Freeman do?
I wasn't on Royce Watch. I completely forgot about it. He got some points.
10 carries for 56 yards, actually beating out Philip Lindsay, who had 11 carries for 43 yards.
So this is the man Michael said would be 1,000-yard rusher, Royce Freeman. Future Hall of Famer, Royce Freeman.
Pick Royce Freeman. You leave Royce alone. He's going to have a great season. Don't you worry about it.
I will say
to be fair, Royce Freeman got more yards than Ezekiel Elliott.
He is outscoring my number 2 pick, Devontae Freeman. So
yeah, well, that's fair. We know that Drew Lock is not going to be ready to play this season. He's on IR.
Yep.
We know that Flacco is not the answer, and at some point they will need to do something else. What are the Broncos going to do?
Rely on the defense.
Lose.
Suck.
Genuinely, I don't understand why Elway is permanently in charge of these decisions. Somebody needs to take him aside and say, I'll pick. Let's go and get a guy out of the stands.
There isn't anyone. That's the problem in Denver at the moment. The ownership's in disarray.
Yeah, it's a catastrophe.
So there is literally no one to hold him to account and fire him.
I have absolute faith in Vic Fangio making this defence really, really good.
I think it was a blip.
Yeah,
I want to see this defence come back and be what they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I do not have faith in Vic Fangio making the quarterback any good.
No.
And so somebody else has to be doing that, and they're not. Drew Lock's a bust before he started.
No.
He's going to be awful.
No.
At best, he's going to be Joe Flacco without the Super Bowl win. And Joe Flacco without the Super Bowl win is awful. Is he not?
He was at one point the highest paid quarterback in the league.
Yeah, that was after the Super Bowl win.
Matt Stafford was the highest paid quarterback in the league.
So was Jimmy Garoppolo.
No. You can't have that.
All right, he's not got his membership to the elite club, I'll give you that.
He's not going to be a Hall of Famer, is he, Joe Flacco? You don't automatically qualify for the Hall of Fame by winning the Super Bowl.
No, I can't see him being in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly. So he's not worth the paper.
He is no Eli Manning.
Surely Eli's not going
Can't
in the
spell
Hall
a
of
league
Fame.
without Eli.
Of course he is.
They should just nail the door shut when he turns up. What a terrible player.
No, it's like schools in the UK. It's easier if you've got siblings in. It's okay, my brother's in.
I'd have rather had the other Manning brother play at quarterback, the one that no one knows.
Cooper.
I'd rather have had Cooper Manning in the Hall of Fame.
Okay, so it's now the quick-fire roundup. So, Griff, start us off.
Right, the Jags lose 26-40 at home against the Chiefs, and more importantly for the season, they may have lost Nick Foles. We haven't had a time frame yet, but he's broken his clavicle. Tony Romo.
Fact-checking Gary has just can come back in week 10.
Week 10, I was going to say Tony Romo was out for 9 weeks when he did his. So, yeah, if he's fit.
This is the second time Nick Foles had that injury, by the way.
It's a very Nick Foles thing to do, isn't it? Did you see the pass he did it on? It was a beautiful arcing touchdown pass.
It was a touchdown pass to DJ
Crunched
Shark.
into the floor and broken. DJ Shark, awesome.
He looks amazing, and he came out the drop. It's his second
Shark,
year now.
I assumed someone was going to do that.
It's his second season. He looked brilliant. I liked him when he was coming out of the draft.
Gardner Minshew the second. Random name generator is operational.
It's a good stat line, isn't it? 22 from 25, 275 yards, touchdown and interception.
Most completed passes to start a career as a Jags quarterback since
The first one.
Garrard.
David Garrard. Absolutely. Very impressive.
I play a lot of Sporkle.
Yeah, that's impressive. 6th round draft pick. There's another quarterback that went from the 6th round. It was pretty decent.
Yeah, you're thinking of Brady. I'm not sure that moustache is ever going to last the test of time. They've traded for Joshua Dobbs from the Steelers to be the backup, I assume, to Minshew. And we'll see what the Jags can do without. For the Chiefs, LaShawn McCoy had a fairly good return to under the wing of Andy Reid.
He looked like LaShawn McCoy when he was running as well.
Which is what they need. And he outplayed Damian Williams, which is not great for fantasy owners. And Tyreek Hill, out for a few weeks with a shoulder/chest injury, is what they said.
It's all been a bit mysterious, isn't it? Like, apparently he was rushed to hospital for checks or something, but
She's strangling arm.
back in
It's clavicle. It's clavicle
going to be back in they said 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. And until he's back, Sammy Watkins is going to do all the work. 3 touchdowns, loads of yards.
198.
Best game he's had in, forever.
That's the Sammy Watkins the Buffalo Bills drafted with number 3 pick
Yeah,
a few
but
years
I
back.
bet they wish they'd kept him now.
So, on to the next game. The Lions could try to throw away a 17-point second-half lead over the Cardinals and force everyone to endure overtime in a poor game, which ended in a 27-27 tie. I've got a great stat here. This is my favourite stat from the weekend. Matthew Stafford had more rushing yards in this game than Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray put together.
Wow. that is a fantastic stat.
22 yards.
Kyler Murray had 4 passes batted down at the line of scrimmage. Last year's leader in this stat was Kirk Cousins, who had 13 for the season.
He looks so small.
He is so small.
I know he is small, but he looked tiny. He looked like my 6-year-old son playing football out there.
Do you know what, though? Credit where it's due. The last 10 minutes of this game, when they really needed it, Kyler Murray produced some really good passes.
Yeah, there's 2 Kyler Murray, isn't there? There's the one in quarters 1, 2, and 3 who was actually
terrible,
pretty bad, and then there's the Kyler Murray in quarter 4 somehow managed to bring it back. 54 passing attempts.
Yeah, at least they got some use out of David Johnson.
Yep.
He played well. What do we think about Matt Patricia's job prospects? Because they should have sewn this game up.
The Lions stink.
The defense was good up until that 4th quarter, and that's about as far as I can go.
I think Matt Patricia could be the first one gone this season. Don't forget, he replaced Jim Caldwell, who went 9-7 in his last season. And since, what did they win last year? 6 games? 5 games?
It's not.
It's poor. They've gone backwards as a
great
franchise.
Like the Cardinals, I think are going to be bottom of the NFC West. I think they're going to be top 10 draft pick. That's not a big. Yeah, I mean, it's not a good offensive line still, and that's fine. They're a developing team. We know that. But that's even worse for the Lions because they've gone into Arizona and they've not got a result against a bad team. Wait, no, don't start yet. TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, yeah, I left that off the thing. I completely forgot that. Yes, TJ
131 yards.
Is that the best debut by a tight end ever?
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant.
Incredible. Why did New England not take him? I mean, that's what we need, obviously, is another really good player. Yeah, he was amazing, and it's a shame that his debut was wasted on a team like the Lions.
Indeed.
So another team throwing away a big lead were the Jets, losing a home divisional matchup 16-17 against the Bills.
Yeah, this the first thing to notice here is the kicker for the Jets missed his field goal attempt and has now been cut and replaced by Sam Ficken, who's played the last couple of seasons on and off for the Chargers, I think. Oh no, sorry, the Rams. Yeah, he was beaten out by Mason Crosby, who kept the Packers job in the off season. Now he's been signed off the streets to replace Vedic, who a few weeks ago was worth a 5th round draft choice and is now out of the league after bouncing across 2 teams. There's pressure clearly got to him. Singletary, I thought he looked really good, Devin Singletary, and you can see why they didn't need LaShawn McCoy, because Frank Gore was having spells and Singletary did the rest of the work. Future Hall of Famer Frank Gore.
Absolutely.
His stats aren't great, but yeah, Singletary, 70 yards off 4 carries. That offensive line's got better. I felt like I thought that the New York pass rush would have been better than it was. Quinnen Williams, a lot of hype about him. He was kept pretty quiet throughout the game.
The Buffalo comeback did time with a lot of Jets injuries on the defense. So
CJ Mosley went out and he was having a great game, wasn't he?
It did.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys who went off. Suddenly the Buffalo could move the ball.
But Adam Gase, right, is a poor coaching appointment. He cannot win in the AFC East, and they had 4 turnovers off Josh Allen in this game, and they just didn't capitalise.
Yeah, overall,
I think very poor.
Greg Williams, defensive coordinator, turned what was a mediocre defense into a decent defense
because he's a good coordinator.
Yeah,
but the offense stagnant.
Didn't click. Le'Veon Bell's his first game back in
18 months,
a long time. 60 yards, 17 carries, 3.5 yards per carry. That's not what you expect from Le'Veon Bell.
The touchdown was good.
Yeah, the touchdown was
great
good.
Catch.
Great
catch.
But
Sam Darnold just didn't look like he was ready to stretch the field.
I don't think he's got the receivers there at all.
Jamison Crowder played well. Had a lot of receptions for not quite 100 yards. Was it the most receptions for not 100 yards? 14?
14 receptions for 99 yards, so let's not be too hard on him. But after that, Le'Veon Bell was next with 6 receptions.
Yeah, that's not 100 yards, though.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Josh Allen looks brilliant when he can unleash the ball down the field. And in John Brown, he's got a proper weapon to throw to. I mean, that was a fantastic acquisition. And I said in the offseason that he would be exactly what was needed.
Perfect for them, yeah.
Brilliant. However, the accuracy issues remain and the turnover issues remain. And to me, it didn't look like either of these quarterbacks is in any different position than they were last season. No. Whereas Lamar Jackson seems to have taken a step forward, even if it was magnified by playing the Dolphins.
Let's
the Bills had the second best defence last year overall. It was just kept so quiet because they were terrible on offense.
I'd take Josh Allen over Darnold.
Yes, as would I. I said that when they were drafted.
Still no.
I'm still not sold on Darnold at all.
Let's move on.
Right. In yet more overtime news, the Chargers tried to lose a game they should have won comfortably before grabbing a 30-24 victory off of Jacoby Brissett and the Colts. The Colts, they had problems with their kicker. Vinatieri missed 2 field goals and a point after, and it was on the sideline heavily massaging his leg. He was okay last year, enough that he deserved to still be on the team, but he said after the game, if you were my GM, you would cut me. Now, he won't get cut. He will not get cut, and the chances are he'll probably still be good enough for the rest of the season. But it shows you that just with Brady and Rivers and Breeze and all the other aging quarterbacks, at some point it comes after everybody. And Vinatieri has been lights out through his career, and it's 17 years since he had a game this bad.
Yeah, 46 years old.
Yeah, also, he's got the records now, so what's the motivation?
I think the motivation is he still wants to win, but what he doesn't want to do is be responsible for them losing, and that is what he was.
Maybe he hates his family.
Other than that, Jacoby Brissett, did fine.
Solid.
Yeah, you can't complain. I mean, if he's going to play like that every week, this team will win a lot of games.
It helps when you've got a running back who's going to take 25 carries, 174 yards.
Bell cow player, Marlon Mack.
Was brilliant. That's the amount of carries that Saquon Barkley should be having.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Can I just also point out Eckler?
Yeah,
that's where I was going. Yeah,
great touchdown, but the Eagles tackling on Vernon Davis was ropey. This was awful.
Diabolical.
It was bad.
Yeah, really. From a team that their defense last year, it's a basic defense, but they're really good at it. And that was just awful.
It was particularly bad, and he didn't rack up masses of yards in the running game, but he turned up at the right time, and he's basically made Melvin Gordon redundant. Between him and Justin Jackson, I don't think they need Melvin Gordon back.
I don't think they do either. We discussed this. Melvin Gordon isn't a top 5 running back. There's no need to pay him top 5 running back money. Right, next up, one of the most competitive matchups of the weekend saw the Bengals lose only 21-20 against the Seahawks. And Andy Dalton had, I think I'm right in saying it was a career day, wasn't it?
Well, he led the league in passing yards, which I believe was the first time he'd done that.
418 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions.
That's a really good day from Andy Dalton against a really good defence.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the Legion of Boom defence, but it's a good defence. And it's in Seattle as well. That's not the Andy Dalton we're used to seeing. That's playoff. Well, not playoff because he's never good enough. But when the Bengals were getting into playoffs type Andy Dalton.
The Legion of Whom?
Someone referred to John Ross as the Legion of Zoom.
Oh, really?
Well, he racked up masses of yards.
158 yards and
2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns, and he had 7 receptions. I think he might have had like 7 receptions in the 2 years previous to this.
Yeah, he's always been injured, hasn't he?
And we've kind of slated the Bengals a little bit for hiring Zach Taylor, but
out of the new coaching hires, this is the one that impressed me the most.
I completely agree. And fair play. He's got the best out of what now looks like a decent player.
But LaFleur won.
Yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. It doesn't matter that he won. He didn't win pretty. Where Zach Taylor has changed what this team looks like it can do.
It's week 1.
They were playing the Seahawks, though. They weren't playing the Dolphins. They weren't playing the Giants. They were playing a very good team.
It's a good team, yeah.
I don't think they could have done any more. DK Metcalf's debut as another wide receiver from this draft. Really good. Really good.
Yeah, where did Tyler Lockett go?
Yeah, I don't know, but
seriously, because I had him playing. I was expecting big things, but DK Metcalf came and apparently, the reports he wasn't going to be fit. He was fit. He not only had 4 receptions and 89 yards, he looked good. He looked like a legitimate wide receiver.
Like he knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Another player who went missing in this game was Mixon, who was taken off with an ankle injury, but apparently it's not as bad as they feared. It better not be because that nearly cost me in fantasy.
Mixon.
Mixon's a good player, but he did nothing in this game. But Gio Bernard, who they just signed to an extension, he plugged in and play and did very well. It was fine. He didn't have to do a lot, but he's more than competent as a backup.
You kind of think they need to probably run the ball a little bit more than they did. Yes, Andy Dalton had a good day, but they asked him to throw 51 times, and I don't think...
You can't do that
we were saying about
week.
Kirk Cousins only asked to throw 10 times, and that limits the amount of mistakes you make. Well, maybe Andy Dalton got a bit lucky.
So the Bucs lost at home to the 49ers because Winston shouldn't be starting NFL games anymore. The final score 17-31. Can Bruce Arians fix an unfixable problem?
No, he cannot, because he's not a miracle maker. He's a very good offensive mind, but Jameis turned back into Jameis and was terrible in this game. He is the reason why the Bucs lost.
49ers had 2 interceptions for the whole of last year.
They had 2 pick sixes in this game.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman's first pick 6 since 2013.
Yeah, it's his first.
I could not believe that.
First interception for the 49ers as well.
Yeah.
Well, generally, you don't throw at Richard Sherman. That's why.
No.
Well, not anymore, hopefully. The scoreline, I think, flatters the 49ers. Like we said, those 2 pick 6 make it look better than it was. The offense wasn't firing on all cylinders. It was really disappointing to see Tevin Coleman go out the game injured. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks.
Very disappointing for me.
Well, I mean, also it's the 49ers starting running back. He has to get injured.
Yeah, I mean
that's the law. Yeah.
Looks like George Kittle is back to kind of being his best. 54 yards, 8 receptions. One of the things that kind of struck me throughout the whole weekend, there seems to be a lot more flags than there were last year. I might just be imagining it, but there were 5 touchdowns ruled out in this game because of flags.
Yeah, Brayton and Kittle had 2 each, didn't they? Both ruled back.
They were fantastic receptions
Oh,
by
they
Brayton
really
as
were.
well.
Yeah, they really were.
Yeah, you've got to be a bit gutted about that. So, I don't know, that's a thing. But
You 49ers fans, one of whom is silent, but he'll nod or shake. Was there actually anything to be impressed about on the offensive side at all?
no, I don't think so.
No. Jimmy G, it just doesn't look like he's making any steps. He needs so many more games.
Yeah, and let's remember it's his first game back after a serious injury. He didn't play that much in pre-season, playing away, whatever. Defense though looked much better. They got a lot of pressure on Jameis Winston. Nick Bosa got his first sack. There were 3 sacks in total. I think that actually looks like a really good unit now.
Fact-checking Gary has liked to say that there were more turnovers in this game than there were last season.
Yeah, D Ford got a sack as well, so both new boys got a sack.
Yeah, he did very well. Right, Monday night, the Bears crapped the bed against the Packers, and the LaFleur regime get off to the win. Thursday night. Did get off to the winning start they wanted, despite there being little to cheer about on offense, in a 3-10 score at Soldier Field.
But the TV networks loved that, didn't they?
I promised Duncan I would refer to the Packers' defense as the fearsome D.
It was the better D.
It was the better D. They did very well. They basically hurried what the Bears wanted to do at all times. But Mitch Trubisky, this is the season we decide. Franchise quarterback or not? I think not. He's a poor system quarterback.
Not brilliant stats, is it?
It's not even just the stats, just the eye test. Does he look like a man who can orchestrate a win at any point?
He looks like a man who could show me around a flat I want to rent.
He still looks the same as he did week 1 when he came, or week 3 or 4, whatever it was, when he came in 2 years ago. He just looks not up to speed mentally with the game.
I think he's someone who, I'll get there in some way, but he needs a running back. And he didn't get one in that game.
He didn't. I think, David Montgomery is a rookie. He didn't have the best of debuts. He did have, 1 catch and 6 carries, but I think he could be that running back, but obviously he needs to see more. I thought the Packers defense was much better than we've ever seen.
Yeah, it really was.
We've seen for a heck of a long time.
But did you not think the offense looked like Mike McCarthy's offense? It didn't actually look any different at all.
The offense didn't look great at all. I didn't think Aaron Rodgers looked that brilliant. He certainly didn't look like the Aaron Rodgers of a few years ago, where he was just taking the league by storm. He looked like last year's Aaron Rodgers again. The offensive line wasn't great either.
That's fine, though, right? Last year's Aaron Rodgers can still win a lot of games with a good defense. If he hasn't got to do everything, then he's good enough to win a lot of games. Yeah, and I think he'll be delighted that the defense... I mean, he looked actually quite pleased. You never very often see him smile, and he was actually genuinely happy.
Is that because he had a bottle of scotch in
there? Probably.
It's me next, isn't it? Rams shrugged off their Super Bowl disappointment with a 30-27 win over the Panthers. Not a vintage day for either of the quarterbacks. So what can we expect over the next couple of weeks from these two? Well, I don't know. I thought it was a competitive game. I thought the Panthers looked as good as I expected them to, and they gave the Rams a really good match. But, I think probably the better team won on the day.
It was more competitive than I imagined it was going to be. At one point, the Panthers sort of dragged themselves back into it.
Yeah, but they were never. I don't think they were ever completely out of it.
Oh no, but the Rams were quite far ahead at one point, weren't they? I mean, I think it's.
They were never more than 2 scores ahead.
Yeah. The Panthers were competitive. Cam. Longest pass was 17 yards, I think.
Didn't look great.
What was his running stats in the end? -2 yards?
Yeah. It looked like he was a quarterback who's been asked to change his game plan. And he's not quite settled into that game plan yet.
Which
is fair. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. They've gone from having those big-bodied wide receivers, the slightly smaller, nippier, faster. They're using a lot of pace. Christian McCaffrey is going to
run CMC,
drive this offense forward.
Is he going to be the number 1 running back of the season? Because in terms of receptions
yes.
and carries,
The
he had
big-
97% of the snaps.
10% of reception, 10 receptions for 81 yards, 19 carries, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
They just don't take him out of the game.
No, and the difference is this year, and we've joked about him putting on a bit of muscle. He's now running through the tackles as well. Like he's doing what a traditional running back does in terms of kind of running through those tackles, as well as still got the speed and
I mean,
to get around the outside.
much like him, he just gives the Panthers an injection of power, doesn't he?
He certainly does. On the other side, on the Rams side of it, the split between Gurley and Brown, despite the fact they said Gurley wouldn't be on a pitch count, this very much looked like a pitch count.
It felt like it was.
And that if that's the way they need to manage that, I don't know why they don't just say that's what we're going to do.
And it's fine. I thought Malcolm Brown was good. He got 2 touchdowns, 53 yards. Gurley, 97 yards, 14 carries. So
you don't need more than that.
Yeah, the carries from Gurley were 14. From Brown, it was 11. That's fairly even.
Yeah.
But
So
that's fine. If Brown's good enough, and he seemed to be, I think the Panthers' defense is much better this year than it was last year. I think we're going to see good numbers from Brian Burns, the pass rusher. So, it was a good competitive game. Either team probably could have won it in the end, and the Rams just edged it.
just before we move on, Jared Goff basically played like a very similar version to Jared Goff we saw in the Super Bowl. Very hesitant. He seems to be going backwards. Last 6 games of last season and this game.
He's just been given a massive contract, hasn't he?
I mean, also that's just
seeing Jared Goff for what he is. He is a limited but young quarterback.
He is still very young. He's still as young as like Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes.
I still think he fits into the same, obviously much further behind, but the same bracket as Brady and Belichick. If you leave him with the same coach for a number of years, I think he'll be very good with what that coach wants to do. I'm not sure he could walk to another team and be classified as one of the better quarterbacks.
I mean, to be fair, he did just shit the bed in the Super Bowl. He's going to have to come back from that.
Yeah, and hopefully he will.
So the Saints held on to win over the Texans 30-28 in a game that showed both sides have a lot to be positive about and should be well involved in the playoff mix.
Yeah, they did. The Texans, for the most part, their new toys turned up. Carlos Hyde played okay. Kenny Stills caught a touchdown.
The virus himself.
And Deshaun Watson didn't get crushed quite as badly, but they still gave up 5 sacks.
Six sacks.
It still wasn't enough to... One good left tackle does not an O-line make.
There's still another 4 positions on the offensive line you need to take account of. But Laramie Tunsil can't defend
everybody.
Watson against everyone.
No. And so this is the problem the Texans are still going to have. This should be their season to walk into the playoffs. And
it should be.
You get the feeling they're just not quite right under Bill O'Brien.
No, something but on the flip side, I thought Deshaun Watson was awesome.
He was amazing.
Yeah, some of the throws he's making under the pressure that he
had. He's a brilliant quarterback. We know this.
Brilliant. And there's one catch from Will Fuller that was absolutely amazing.
Will Fuller, by the way, always looks like DeAndre Hopkins because of the dreadlocks.
Yeah, no, it's confusing. It was Will Fuller, though.
It was Will Fuller. Yeah, I thought it was Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins had another good game. I think he's the best receiver in football at the moment.
He appears to be right up there as usual.
I mean, let's not throw the Texans away too quickly.
I'm not throwing them away. I think that's a good defence and that's a good offence apart from the offensive line. That's the only thing I've got a problem with.
Any team that comes within 2 points of the Saints this season is doing well.
That's why I wanted to mention Carlos Hyde and Kenny Stills first, because I thought as acquisitions go, despite some of the flack we've thrown Bill O'Brien's way, they fit the bill. Kenny Stills, possession receiver. Carlos Hyde, breaking tackles.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like they're playing the Saints in New Orleans.
Yeah,
and like I said, that's a good defense. Any other team, they're probably not giving up. They won't give up many 30-point games.
What do we think about Taysom Hill?
Well, he can just do everything.
It's so impressive. It's so good to have that player on your roster.
I'd like to see if he could coach as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see him punt. I think that'd be an impressive thing. And Alvin Kamara was back doing Alvin Kamara things.
So Breeze had another good game, 32-43, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns, interception. Typical Breeze. One thing I worry about, he only had 1 pass over 20 yards.
Yep.
Yeah, and this was the criticism towards the end of last year, wasn't it?
And even that 1 pass over 20 yards, if it had gone like maybe 1 or 2 yards further, it would have caught Ted Ginn Jr. in stride and it probably would have gone for a touchdown. Ted Ginn had to stop and receive that. Is that a worry? I mean, when you've got weapons like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, you can scheme around that.
The running game is so good for the Saints that I don't think it's a massive problem because teams will have to stack the box against the run, which will mean there will always be an open receiver and he will find them. But it's the same as Brady. You don't see Brady taking shots down the field. Not anymore. It doesn't happen because they can't. And that's same with Peyton Manning. Eventually the arm went. I still think...
The arm didn't go, it fell off a cliff.
Well, it did. I still think Breeze is
Super Bowl
one of the best 5 quarterbacks there are in the league. And yes, he's probably 2 or 3 yards down on where he was a year ago. But that's still... the brain makes up for a lot of that loss.
I agree. I also think he's got the right coach for that in terms of Sean Payton is able to scheme around that.
They will scheme around.
They've got good players around them.
You know, the field goal to win it, which was right at the end, 58-yard field goal. It was Will Lutz's longest ever career field goal. That's a pressure situation, Vedvik, if you're listening, which you're not.
It is. I mean, what a great kicker to have in your fantasy team.
Was he? Yeah, winner. That's better than Vinatieri did for me.
Okay, guys, so any overreactions to week 1?
Gardner Minshew II will be the Rookie of the Year and the MVP.
That is an overreaction to week 1. I like it. It's a bold prediction. There is every chance that he plays 16 games for them because they didn't go and trade for an established quarterback. They went and traded for Joshua Dobbs, which makes you think that they're going to let Gardner Minshew play. And if Foles doesn't make it back as fit, or if Minshew is doing his job properly, then maybe this is what they go with. That would be fairly incredible if that happened.
You asked for an overreaction. I thought I'd give you one.
It's the Moustache Very Powerful Award.
I like it. I like it.
Josh Jacobs, Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, okay. That's fairly out there for week 1. John?
I've not thought of one. So come back to me.
I will say Andy Dalton for MVP.
That's not.
That's not an overreaction. That's just
ridiculous.
That's just taking the piss.
Yeah.
Come on.
You told us not to take the piss.
Well, that's what I'm going with. I'll also say that I think the Jets, bearing in mind we've just learned that they've cut Vedvik and replaced him with Sam Ficken, I'm going to say they have 4 kickers this season. Because I'm going to say Ficken also doesn't cut the mustard and they need to get in at least 2 others before the end of the season.
Lamar Jackson will throw more touchdowns than
Patrick Mahomes?
Drew Brees.
Ooh. Well,
no,
that seems unlikely, but I quite like it.
It's an outlandish statement.
I like it for week 1. I think there were a lot of places you could go with this. The obvious ones are the Browns won't make the playoffs or the Bears won't make the playoffs, things like that. But I think it's nice to see. After week 2, we shall get a better idea. Week 1 is always weird. To Jim's point from last week, with so few star players playing in the preseason now, this is basically a warm-up game for half the players.
On that point,
yeah,
it seemed like there were a lot of teams that kind of had a slow start. I mentioned the Eagles didn't really get going. The Browns left out a lot of their starters.
O-line.
Yeah. Do you think we're going to revert back next year to see the preseason actually be useful?
No, I don't think so. I think
thought I'd throw it out there.
I think coaches now look at it like a 14 or 15 game regular season. I honestly do. It would be interesting to see, but I don't think that the off season is going to change like in that direction at all. Should
we have a look at fantasy?
Well, we should do. Normally, the Voiceless Wonder would do this, but he's unable to communicate this week. So, fantasy standouts, anybody?
Lamar Jackson was excellent.
Christian McCaffrey was all right, wasn't he?
Sammy Watkins.
So all the obvious ones. Any sneaky ones? Mark Andrews, tight end for the Ravens.
Yeah, 28 points.
Yeah, he did very well, and he will continue to do very well.
Speaking of tight ends, Evan Ingram as well.
Yeah.
I had him.
Yeah,
I mean, literally no one else for Eli to throw to apart from Evan Ingram and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I was hoping Sterling Shepard would put up more of a performance, but he wasn't great.
Derrick Henry was very good as well. So
yeah,
he seems to have carried the form from last season into this. Hopefully, we'll see that.
Do you think many people had John Ross in their starting lineup?
No.
God, I hope not.
I don't think many people had John Ross in their team.
There's every year that there's been the John Ross hype that he will be, and this year it hasn't happened, and he's had one good game. I still refuse to believe in the John Ross hype.
You got stung, didn't you?
I got stung. I've been stung twice now.
It's just it. There's going to be loads of players who had good first games that are going to be on the waiver wire. Like we mentioned, a lot of rookie wide receivers had good
Scary
games.
Terry.
Yeah, and they're going to be picked up and do nothing for the rest of the year.
Because T.J. Hawkinson, it was over 100 yards. It was about 10 yards more than Will Disley got in the first game last year.
I remember, yeah.
Wow. But don't forget, this time last year, George Kittle had just put up a 100-yard, 2-touchdown game in the first week of the season. Something similar to that. So it can go either way. I reckon Hawkinson will be on form all season. I think he's going to be really, really good. Same with Mark Andrews.
Well,
I think they're going to be really good tight ends.
In terms of fantasy, I guess it's going to be covered by Jim and who was the good rookies, really. Because at this point, you're not going to be going, oh, well, Devontae Freeman was rubbish. But
he was
rubbish. He was rubbish, but you're not going to be dropping him at week one. So,
Devontae Adams wasn't very good.
Was there anybody?
No.
Was there anybody?
If I picked them in our league, then they were rubbish.
Jared Cook disappointed me.
Jared Cook delighted me because I thought he'd get a lot more points than that against me this week in fantasy, Paul. I'll be honest.
So angry.
Well, you should be.
I thought I was so clever when I drafted him as well.
I still think that would be a good draft.
I think it will be good. Anybody else that you think really disappointed for the fantasy teams, apart from Vinatieri?
Cam Newton.
Broncos defence.
Mike Evans.
Evans was poorly.
Sorry, Mike fucking Evans.
Tyreek Hill.
Tyreek Hill, injury, absolutely.
Saquon.
Still got me a decent amount of points.
But he should be getting
Duke Johnson.
Kamara.
That's a good holler from the back of the room.
Checking Gary.
I offered you a trade for Duke Johnson and you turned it down.
Well, you can't blame him, can you? Robbie Anderson for Duke Johnson could be a good shout. Yeah. By the way, mentioning the Jets there, we've just seen the news come through that Demaryius Thomas has been traded for a 2021 6th-round pick to the Jets. So Bill Belichick has now completed a trade with all 31 teams since the year 2000. Go Bill.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we just said. Darnold needs some more targets. They had to go out and get wide
good
receiver.
acquisition, I think.
Good. You turned down a trade, John, that I offered you.
I can't remember what it was.
I offered you Cortland Sutton for one of your players. And
Cortland Sutton got over 100 yards this week.
He got 120 yards, yeah. He got 15 points.
I can't remember who you offered me, though, but it wasn't worth...
Nobody's offered me any trades, which tells you how poor my team might be.
Yeah, but it is. As Gary is silently motioning, it's week one.
It is week one. Jim, final word is yours this week. We made a rookie of the week.
Yep, so we mentioned this. There's been a lot of receivers who, quite frankly, really impressed. So Marcus Brown at the Baltimore Ravens, who is Antonio Brown's cousin, by the way.
Hopefully less cray-cray.
Another Brown, AJ Brown for Tennessee Titans, Terry McLaurin for Washington Redskins, TJ Hawkinson and DK Metcalf were all really impressed. But my rookie of the week goes to an offensive lineman, Garrett Bradbury for the Vikings. He was amazing. He punched holes in the Falcons' defensive line for Dalvin Cook to get through. If he carries on that form, and it's going to be an easy season for Dalvin Cook to easily rack up 1,500 yards.
I like that because you can see the difference a good O-lineman makes. You saw Quentin Nelson at the Colts.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a good shout. That's a really good shout. I like that. I like a bit of outside the box thinking there. Would have been easy to give it to anybody else.
Some O-line love.
Well, I thought it was going to be Hawkinson, if I'm honest, but that's a good
I thought you were going to go Jacobs.
I did think about Jacobs, but the yards per carry were disappointing. In terms of bad rookies, well, there weren't actually that many.
Kyler
Murray grew into the game.
He grew into the game. You know, the Falcons.
He didn't grow. It's again, the voice of reason behind me says he didn't grow.
The Falcons invested a lot in their offensive line. Lindstrom and Caleb McCary with 2 first-round picks.
Lindstrom's out for the season, hasn't he?
Lindstrom broke his foot. But they were both getting done over by the Vikings defense, and I think it's unfair for rookie offensive linemen to, take that type of punishment in their first game. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Jim. This has been the Snap UK podcast. Thank you for listening. Get in touch on social media. We are at the Snap UK. On Twitter, help us shape the show, ask a question, or throw some wanky stats our way. Whether
it's been a lot of wanky stats this week.
But I didn't write any of them down, so you can't blame me.
I think it was mainly me.
Until next week, goodbye.